Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a topic today that's got everyone talking nearshoring to Latin America.
Yeah.
We've got this article here called Pasted Text, but we're gonna go way beyond just like reading it. We're gonna tackle those like hesitations, those concerns that people have.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of misconceptions out there about nearshoring, right? But what we often find is that once you really look into it, the reality is actually much better.
Totally. Like, let's just address that big one right away, the language barrier.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us picture just like constant misunderstandings, frustration, right? When you're working with teams across borders.
I get that. It's a valid concern. But in Latin America, it's actually pretty different. You see, the English proficiency rates are really high, especially in tech. Like countries like Argentina, Uruguay, Costa Rica, they actually have higher English proficiency than the global average, around 57%. And a lot of this has to do with, universities having these bilingual programs and a big emphasis on learning English early on, and the demand in the global market just keeps growing.
So no more worrying about like, are we on the same page or, are things getting lost in translation? That's some serious peace of mind, right?
For sure. And, a lot of these nearshore providers, they actually make English training a priority for their employees. They get that it's key to building those, strong partnerships.
Okay, so we've tackled language, but what about culture? That just feels like a whole other beast, right? All those fears about work styles clashing, communication breaking down, because you're in totally different cultural contexts.
Absolutely. Cultural sensitivity is huge in any kind of, global work. But the interesting thing is the gap between North America and Latin America, it's often smaller than people think. There's actually this thing called a cultural similarity score, and it measures like shared values, communication styles, that kind of thing. And get this, Mexico and Brazil actually score higher with the US than countries like China or India, which you usually think of for, outsourcing.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So, okay, higher cultural similarity score, but what does that actually mean for someone, thinking about nearshoring? What's that like in real life?
Well, think about it this way. You're able to connect with your team not just on like a work level, but on a personal level too. Maybe you're both into, football, maybe you like the same music. And that connection builds camaraderie, it builds trust, and that leads to smoother work, you solve problems faster, and frankly, it's just more enjoyable. And a happy team is a productive team.
Right, right, totally. Okay, I'm starting to get it. I'm seeing the appeal here.
Right.
But time zones, I mean, we've all been there, right? Late night calls, endless email chains trying to get everyone on the same page across the world. It's a pain.
Oh yeah, I've been there. And that's one of the biggest advantages of nearshoring, especially for North America. You know, forget those late nights staring at your laptop. A lot of major Latin American cities like Mexico City, Bogota, Buenos Aires, they're in the central time zone. You're talking real-time collaboration, you get quick responses. It just makes things more efficient for everyone.
So you're saying I can actually get some sleep. That's a big selling point right there. But what about the actual expertise, the technical side of things? Can Latin America really handle, those really cutting edge projects, especially in things like software development or data science?
That's a common question, and the answer might surprise you. Latin American countries, they're really doing amazing things in tech. For example, did you know Argentina is actually ranked 10th globally in tech proficiency according to like Coursera's Global Skills Index? And Brazil's not far behind either. You're not just, saving money, you're getting access to incredibly talented people who are ready to tackle those tough projects. And what's even cooler is we're seeing a lot of specialization now in those really sought after areas like AI, machine learning, cybersecurity.
Wow. Okay, so we've got the language, we've got the culture, the time zones, the talent, but there's one more big one, right?
Hmm.
Data security. That's non-negotiable no matter where you're working. So what's the situation in Latin America?
You're absolutely right. Data security is critical. And the good news is Latin American countries, they've really stepped up their game. Mexico, for example, they put in a really strong data protection law back in 2010. And since then, a lot of other countries in the region, like Costa Rica, Argentina, they've done the same. Plus, a lot of these nearshore providers, they're really making an effort to adopt those international security standards, like ISO 27001, which is, globally recognized.
So it's not just talk. They're actually putting those protections in place. That's good to hear.
Right. And a lot of this is driven by, wanting to attract those international clients, build that trust in the nearshoring industry as a whole, so you can feel confident that your data is in good hands.
Okay, so it seems like we've busted some of those big myths about nearshoring to Latin America. But I think it's time to move beyond just those initial concerns and really dig into what this could mean for your business.
That's a great point. Let's shift gears a bit and explore those real-world advantages that nearshoring can bring.
Okay, so we've spent some time, debunking those myths around nearshoring, but I want to get practical here. What are the actual benefits, the bottom line stuff, that someone like me, a business owner, a decision maker, what can I expect to see when I make that move to nearshoring?
Well, let's start with the big one, right? The one everyone's thinking about, cost savings. I mean, that's one of the main reasons people look at nearshoring in the first place, the potential to really cut down those operational expenses.
Yeah, and I bet that's music to any business owner's ears. But how much are we talking here? Are we talking like real significant savings?
Absolutely, it can be a game changer. You see, salaries for skilled professionals in Latin America, they're generally lower compared to, North America, Western Europe, even for those really specialized roles, the ones everyone's looking for. And it's not just salaries either. It's lower overhead costs, more affordable infrastructure, sometimes even a better currency exchange rate. It
Yeah.
all adds up.
So I could get that same level of expertise, but
Yeah.
but for way less. That's pretty compelling. But it can't just be about, saving money, right? There's got to be more to it than that.
Oh, there's so much more. Cost savings are important, but they're really just the beginning. Another huge advantage is access to this incredibly talented and diverse pool of people. We touched on it earlier with tech expertise, but it's worth going a little deeper.
Yeah, we talked about Latin America really becoming this tech powerhouse. Argentina, Brazil, they're really climbing those global ranks. But what does that actually look like on the ground?
Okay, so imagine you're putting together a software development team, right? You need people who know their stuff, not just with like Python or Java, but they've got experience with agile methodologies, cloud computing, maybe even, cybersecurity, AI. And you can find all of that in Latin America. And it's not just about those technical skills. These folks, they often have amazing communication skills. They're adaptable. They really get that collaborative mindset, which is so important these days.
So it's more than just checking off those boxes, those skills on a resume. It's about finding a team that really clicks, that gets you, that's easy to work with, and really wants the project to succeed.
You got it. And remember that cultural similarity score we were talking about, those shared values, those ways of communicating. It can make a huge difference in how your team works together, how successful your project is. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable, sharing ideas, working together, and ultimately, reaching those goals.
Okay, I'm starting to see the big picture here.
Yeah.
It's not just about, pinching pennies. It's about building a team, a strong team that can really, really take your business to the next level. But I'm also thinking about the practical side of things. We live in a world where things move so fast,
Right.
right? You got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to scale up. So how does nearshoring, how does it fit into all of that?
That's a great question. And you know what? Nearshoring can actually give you a big advantage when it comes to agility and scalability. It gives you that flexibility to grow your operations quickly or scale down if you need to. And you can do all of that while keeping things running smoothly with your existing teams.
So if I suddenly need to add more people to a project or change direction because things are changing in the market, I can do that without all the usual headaches and delays.
Exactly, because you've got access to this larger pool of talent, people who are ready to go. You can find the people you need with the right skills, often in a similar time zone, so onboarding is smoother and there's less disruption to your work.
Man, that kind of flexibility is like gold, right?
Yeah.
But beyond the practical stuff, I'm also wondering about the more intangible stuff. Does nearshoring bring anything to the table when it comes to innovation, fresh ideas, that kind of thing?
Oh, it absolutely does. When you bring together people from different backgrounds, different cultures, even if those cultures are similar in some ways, you're going to get exposed to new ideas, different ways of solving problems, new ways of looking at your industry. It's like having a new lens to see things through.
I like that. So it's not just about getting the work done. It's about challenging those assumptions, thinking outside the box. It could even lead to, better products, better services.
Absolutely. It's about that cross-cultural exchange of ideas, which can be so stimulating and can really drive innovation. It's a win-win for everyone.
Okay, I got to admit, I'm feeling pretty good about nearshoring. Pretty optimistic. But but I'm also, a bit of a realist. Every business decision has its challenges, its downsides.
Right.
So what are some of the things I should be aware of, before I jump in?
You're absolutely right. It's always smart to look at things from both sides. And while nearshoring has a lot of positives, there are some potential challenges to keep in mind.
Okay, so what should I be prepared for?
Well, one thing that can sometimes come up, even when cultures are pretty similar, is navigating those subtle differences. For example, communication styles can be different. What might seem, direct and efficient in one culture might be seen as a little too blunt or even rude in another. There can also be differences in, work ethics, how people approach problems, even their sense of humor.
So it's not always going to be perfectly smooth sailing.
Yeah.
There might be a few bumps in the road as you figure those things out.
There might be, but the key is to be aware of those differences right from the start and to approach them with understanding, with sensitivity, and honestly, a little bit of humor. Clear communication, really listening to each other, and being willing to adapt. Those are essential to building a positive, productive working relationship.
Makes sense. What else should I have on my radar?
Another thing to consider is finding the right nearshoring partner. With nearshoring becoming more and more popular, there are a lot of providers out there, and each one is different. They have their strengths, their weaknesses, their areas of expertise, their own cultures.
So how do I sort through all of that and find the one that really fits my needs, my goals?
Research, research, research. Look for providers who have a good track record, solid experience in your industry, and they really need to understand your specific requirements. Don't just go with the first offer that sounds good. Really take the time to vet them carefully.
So do your homework, right? Don't just scratch the surface. Really dig in and understand who you're getting into bed with. What are some like practical things I can do to make sure I'm making the right choice?
Talk to their clients, get references, talk to people who are already working with them, get a feel for their culture, how they communicate, how they treat their clients. You want someone you can trust, someone who gets you, who understands your vision.
Great advice. Anything else?
Yeah, don't forget about the legal stuff, the regulations. Every country has different laws, about labor, taxes, data privacy.
So I need to make sure I'm on top of all that before I sign anything, right?
Yeah.
Make sure I'm playing by the rules on both sides.
Exactly. It's really important to talk to some legal experts, people who specialize in international business, and take sure you're doing things the right way, both in your home country and the country where your nearshore team is. It'll save you a lot of potential headaches down the line.
Okay, this is all really helpful. It sounds like nearshoring it's a good option, but it's not a silver bullet, right?
Okay.
It's something to really think about carefully.
I agree with that. And it's important to remember every business is different, right? What
Yes.
works for one company might not work for another.
So there's no magic formula. It's
Yeah.
about figuring out what works for you, what your goals are, what risks you're comfortable with.
Exactly. You've got to weigh those factors against the potential benefits and challenges of nearshoring and make smart decisions that make sense for your business strategy.
Great points. We've covered a lot of ground here. We've busted some myths. We've talked about the benefits, the potential challenges of nearshoring to Latin America. What are some of the key things you think our listeners should keep in mind as they're thinking about this?
Well, first off, I think it's clear that Latin America is a real player in the tech world, right? Tons of talent, lots of diversity, and we busted those myths about language, culture, time zones. There are a lot of advantages to nearshoring.
Right, and then when we talked about those cost savings, that flexibility and the possibility of getting those fresh perspectives, which is always exciting. And of course, we also talked about, managing those cultural differences, even the subtle ones, finding the right partner and making sure you're on top of the legal stuff. This has been a really interesting deep dive. I've learned a lot about nearshoring to Latin America. I feel like I really get it now.
Me too, and we're not finished yet.
So we've talked about the benefits, we've looked at the challenges, but sometimes the best way to really get it is to see it in action, right? To
Mm.
see how nearshoring is actually working for businesses out there. So let's look at some real world success stories.
Yeah, I love that idea. Nothing really brings it to life like seeing how it's playing out for real
Yeah,
companies.
exactly. So let's start with a big one, a company everyone knows, Google. They've got a huge presence in Latin America now, offices in Mexico, Brazil, Colombia. It seems like they're they're not just, testing the waters. They're really going all in on the region.
Yeah, they are. And Google's approach to nearshoring, it's really interesting. It's not just about, setting up these little satellite offices. They're building these whole tech hubs, really taking advantage of the local talent, the expertise. They're doing everything from software development and engineering to customer support, cloud services, even AI research.
Wow, so they're really tapping into everything the region has to offer.
Yeah.
But what I find really interesting is how they're bringing those nearshore teams into their global operations. It's not just about, outsourcing tasks. It's about creating this really collaborative environment, this interconnected way of working.
Yeah, absolutely. Google, they really get that understanding the culture is key to making nearshoring work. They're putting a lot of effort into, building those bridges between cultures, encouraging their teams to learn from each other, to share what they know and to build those personal connections which are so important.
That's a great example of how a big company, a global giant, is doing nearshoring. But what about, the smaller companies, the startups, the ones that maybe don't have all the resources that a Google has? Does nearshoring work for them too?
It totally does. In fact, nearshoring can be huge for startups, for smaller businesses that want to grow quickly, and do it in a way that's smart and efficient. Let me tell you about this really cool case study. This fintech startup in the U.S. called Albo. They were developing these really innovative financial solutions, but they were having trouble keeping up with the demand. They needed to grow their engineering team fast, but finding the right people in the U.S. it was expensive. It was taking forever.
Yeah, that's the classic startup struggle, right? You need the talent, but finding it is always a challenge, especially in tech. So what did Albo do?
They decided to partner with a nearshore development team in Mexico City, and that turned out to be like a turning point for them.
What kind of benefits did they see?
Well, first of all, they were able to find these amazing software engineers, people who not only had the technical skills, but they also really fit in with the team back in the U.S. culturally. So communication was easier. They all had a similar understanding of how to work, what the best practices were, and it just created this really positive, collaborative environment.
So it was a good fit all around. They got the people they needed, and both teams were able to learn from each other to grow.
Exactly, exactly. And the results were incredible. Albo was able to develop their product much faster, get
Yeah.
it to market quicker, and they were able to achieve that really fast growth that they were aiming for.
Man, these examples are really inspiring. It seems like nearshoring can really work for any business,
Yeah.
big or small.
It really can.
Mhm.
And it's not just, tech companies either. We're seeing companies in healthcare, in manufacturing, in finance, all sorts of industries. They're all exploring nearshoring. They're seeing the benefits.
Okay, so let's say I'm listening to this and I'm sold. I want to give nearshoring a try. What are some practical things I should keep in mind? Some tips, some best practices.
That's a great question. It's one thing to understand how nearshoring works, but actually doing it, making it work for you, that's another thing. So here are a few things to keep in mind as you start this nearshoring journey.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah. First things first, figure out your goals. It sounds simple, but it's really important to be clear about what you want to achieve with nearshoring. Are you mainly looking to save money? Are you trying to find, those specialized skills that are hard to find where you are? Do you want to develop your products faster, get them to market quicker, or maybe it's a little bit of everything?
Well, so don't just jump in without a plan, right?
Right.
Have a strategy, a roadmap. Figure out what you want to do and how nearshoring can help you get there.
Yeah, exactly. Next, do your research.
Right.
Don't assume that all of Latin America is the same. Every country has its own strengths, its own, areas of expertise, its own culture. So take some time to look into different countries, different regions within Latin America and find the one that really makes sense for what you need.
Right. So think about time zones, think about the culture, what kind of industries are strong in that area, and are the people there, do they have the specific skills that you're looking for?
Exactly. Once you've narrowed it down a bit, you gotta find the right partner. And this is where it's really important to do your homework.
We talked about that earlier, right? Checking references, really getting to know the company, making sure there's a good fit culturally and understanding how they work with their clients.
Yeah. Yeah, finding that right partner, it's so important. And once you've found them, communication is everything. Set up those lines of communication, set those expectations right from the start. Make sure everyone's on the same page about, timelines, what needs to be delivered, who reports to who, even how you prefer to communicate.
So don't skimp on the communication. Be open, be clear, talk to each other.
Absolutely. And lastly, be ready to adapt. Remember, you're working with people from different cultures. Even if those cultures are similar in some ways, there might be, some misunderstandings, maybe some different ways of approaching problems.
So be flexible, be patient.
Yeah.
Be open to learning from those differences, and don't be afraid to adjust how you're doing things if you need to.
Exactly. Nearshoring, it's a journey. It's not, a one-time thing. It's about building relationships, it's about collaboration, and it's about, always looking for ways to get better, to make things work even smoother.
This has been a great deep dive. We've really gone deep on nearshoring to Latin America, haven't we? We talked about the myths. We looked at some real world examples. We got some practical advice.
We did, and I hope we've encouraged people to really consider nearshoring, to see the potential it has for businesses of all kinds.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with this. Don't let those old ideas, those assumptions hold you back. Latin America it's an exciting place. There's so much talent there, so many
It's
opportunities.
a region that's full of possibilities, ready to partner with businesses that are looking for new solutions for a fresh perspective.
So be bold, be curious, go out there and explore. You might be surprised by what you find. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.